So, hello, what ho, welcome back to another exciting adventure of The Plain Truth. I'm your host, Travel Mateus, also at Radio Free Anarchy. I am just responding in an email to Andrew Thomas Young, the famous go-to guy for nearly all proponents of atmospheric refraction. So he and I have had this interesting and tumultuous exchange because sound is very low. What's going on, Lex? Sound is very low. All right, how about this? Check 1 2, check 1 2. How about this, Lex? Good to see you, man. If you're talking about the sound of the music, that's intentional because I don't want it to overwhelm. But if I'm ever paused or not talking, I kind of want just some background noise, and it's... Thanks. All right, anyway. So I am corresponding with Andrew Thomas Young, and the thing that I have an issue with fundamentally is that when I mean, you might have a different experience, you out there with your vast research into this topic. You might have come across some information that I don't have, and if you have, please send it to me, because I believe that in the 7 years of my extensive research in the field, I believe I have enough data to provide visuals for students of nature to understand what these images mean about the horizon when they look out. So what we have here with Andrew Thomas Young is a very detailed, scientifically driven, data point, graphic driven, saturated pile of meaninglessness, and I mean that in the best possible sense. I don't find hardly any meaning in what I'm reading here because it doesn't ever seem to match the way I've seen the world and the way I would describe the world. Okay? So we have looming, towering, stooping, and sinking. Right? So looming is paired with sinking, so I'm not sure why these are separated. Looming is associated with sinking, and towering is held in contrast with stooping. This is one way, this is another way, this is one way, this is another way. These are opposed to each other visually. When you see towering, you don't typically see stooping per se, because towering is the stretching of the object and stooping is the smashing of the object, right? Sinking is where you cannot see the bottom of the object, and looming is where the bottom of the object is now visible. So here we have this description. Here we have some simulations of terrestrial refraction phenomena that do not involve mirages. Now, that statement right there, do you take that as a very like flat blanket statement, like that covers the whole idea? Here are some terrestrial refraction phenomena that do not involve mirages. Does that mean that when you see a mirage, it doesn't have looming, or it doesn't have stooping, or it doesn't like... Because in another example, he crosses over and you have looming with a mirage. You get what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't match. It's like they have different concepts of looming, and then they can mix and match it, and they go, oh, that's looming. But there's no like one standard. Anyway, okay? I'm just geeking out, or glitching out, getting triggered. The 4 types named in this title all involve refraction anomalies, but without inverted or multiple images, and therefore without mirages. The 4 types named in the title all involve Refraction anomalies. Like, this is just not true. This is not true. It's not, these are not anomalies. I just get triggered every single time because this science is so poor, and yet this is the place we're told to go. Like, where's the science book on mirages? Like, we should have this one book where you have these citations that have current, you know, like when Andrew Thomas Young quotes someone, it's like from 500 years ago when they didn't have photography and they were just describing and saying, oh this, oh that, but you can't ever like see it. Like, you have no idea what it looks like still, even though they're being very copious in their descriptions. Okay? The same format is used in the mirage excuse me. The same format used in the mirage simulations is used here. The target is the same triangle. I've asked Andrew Thomas Young, I said, why do you use this triangle? Why don't you use real life examples? Like, I don't ever see triangles. Like, I still don't know what a target looks like based on this diagram. You know what I mean? Like, what does this look like out in nature? Because you don't ever see anything looking like this. You never see this stuff. So this is just their best attempt, and they include this curving surface, which you don't need to refer to at all, okay? There's no reason ever to have this curved surface here as a helpful guide to interpret the data that we're seeing, okay? All right, the standard atmosphere reference case. That example of normal refraction is shown here at the left. That example of the standard atmosphere case, I guess. I don't know. The 10K viewing distance is a little larger than the most remote examples shown on the standard refraction page, which was just 5.5 kilometers less. Half a kilometer less. That's insignificant. So the target has sunk a little farther below the horizon here. No, the horizon has been loomed up, which is cutting off. The target isn't behind the curve. The target is behind raised, the floor has been raised, right? So you can see my face like this, right? Here's the floor, and you can see my face. This is what sinking looks like. The floor is raised up, and I'm cut off. But I'm not behind a curve. This same distance, right? The same distance from my face to the end of this is the same. I didn't move anywhere. This is the floor of the ocean or the earth, and when something behind it, you see it full, and then the next day you only see this much, it's not behind the curve. The refraction has loomed up the floor, and that's what's blocking it. So that if you put someone here at the limit of the vision of, if you put someone here at the limit of the visual water, then you will know where to put that person later on when you can see it at a different distance. You're like, oh, that's how far away it is. You get what I'm saying? Like, all right. So this is a standard atmosphere case, right? So what he's saying is that this is the control image. How do you know that? Like, you can give me this standard atmosphere case, but like, okay, look. So it says here, note that the rays are curved because of the temperature gradient in the lower atmosphere. See the bending pages for details, okay? Now, the thing that we need to have explained to us and provided for us are the temperature profiles. Like, let's see what this looks like, right? If I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, oh well, standard atmosphere. Like, I see meters and I see kilometers, but I don't see any, and I see ray tracing reference numbers for that which is above my vision. So this zero becomes the focal point of your vision, so that the 1 and the 2 is what's in the ceiling area, and the -1 and the -2 is what's in the floor. Okay, so like that's not even clearly explained for someone to understand what's happening. So let's go to the temperature gradient and see what happens. Temperature gradient. See, all we're getting right now is an explanation. We have no temperature profile. Okay, so that means, in essence, let me give you an example, because I asked Andrew Thomas Young, I said, if I were a middle school student and I wanted to take my students out and show them examples, but I don't know when these things are going to happen, like, that's not helpful. Like, hey class, next week we're going to go look at an inferior mirage at Anacapa Island. Well, what if the temperature profile is not right? You're not going to see one. You understand what I'm saying? And Andrew Thomas Young said it's basically impossible to predict what you're going to see out there. Like, we don't know. We just show up and whatever it is. Well, that's what I do. So these people don't even know how to predict, which is the scientific test for your hypothesis. Show me your prediction, Andrew Thomas Young. He doesn't have any predictions. He just says, if it's like this, it'll look like this. That's somewhat of a prediction, but it's only mathematical, because it doesn't look like temperatures. It just looks like this. In the standard atmosphere, when the standard atmosphere is like this, I'm like, no, like what does this look like? I don't know what this looks like. Is there a temperature profile that produces this? Is there a great? Is there what's the meteorological data? What's the boundary layer data of the meteorological information of this astronomical phenomenon? Like, we don't have that information. And no one's talking about this. No one's calling us out. To calculate the path of a ray of light, which doesn't exist, and which even Andrew Thomas Young says is just a colloquialism, it's just an idea put into words. There are no rays of light. And yet we're talking about rays of light. We are in La La Land right now. This is not reality. To calculate the path of a ray of light in the atmosphere, we must know the refractive index. Right. What creates the refractive index? You should then be able to tell me, like, wake up in the morning, like like it's going to rain for the next 7 days. How do you know that? It's not raining right now. How do you know? So how do you know what the temperature profile or what the refractive index is going to be in 3 days? You might not. So then you wake up in the morning, you stretch, and you're like, oh, today's the day I'm going to take my class out and we're going to start this investigation, right? You as a scientist, like, look, watch. If you would imagine that you could create your own classroom of scientific researchers, and it's like an exclusive club, right? It's an elective. However, you have the funding to make this research happen with your own students. That's an interesting thought. How could I promote my science to schools as a visiting lecturer, or even like if you wanted to, let's say for instance, if I were in this county, or no, I'll just say it, if I were in Ventura County in California, or in Harford County, Maryland, I would go to each of those public schools, pitch my science, show that all of this stuff with someone like Andrew Thomas Young at SDSU, like, this is what we're given. And I would then say to the person, do you know what this diagram looks like? What does that look like out in nature? I don't know. I have no idea. Right, so then I'm going to say, look, I'm going to be the one who gives this. And so any students who are triggered or interested in photography and in meteorology, right, and in astronomical, all that kind of stuff, like who knows what burgeoning scientists are out there. So I could create almost like what's the word when you are a professor who adjunct, right? I'd be an adjunct professor or an adjunct lecturer. Anyway, if you're telling us that you can make a calculation of what you think light is doing, I'm not going to say a ray of light. I'll say what if you think you know what light is doing out there, what are the variables that you need to describe your refractive index? All right. We must know the refractive index of the air at every height. So here's my question. Where's the evidence that these guys that he quotes from hundreds of years ago went out? Because, again, unless you had a team, right, which would mean you've been commissioned. These weren't just hobbyists. No one's ever paid me for my research, and yet these men hundreds of years ago were paid to be the guy on the beach with the telescope, the guy in the water with a thermistor or his mercury rising measuring thermometer, whatever. Like, did he go out along that corridor at every height? Like, where's that data? That's what I'm talking about, right? The refractivity of air is very nearly proportional to its density, which the perfect gas law says is proportional to the pressure. So we have refractivity, density, pressure, inversely proportional to the absolute temperature. Okay? So right now, we're just given all of this gobbledygook. This is gobbledygook. Show me what you're talking about out in nature. Right? Want to see what Andrew Thomas Young said to my question to him? Listen to what I said. I said, please indulge me. Could you show me this claim in nature? And this is a quote from him. And because the density of the air changes continuously with height above the Earth, light rays within the Earth's atmosphere bend continuously as they pass from one level to another. That's the meteorological boundary layer discussion, okay? Meteorological boundary layer, atmospheric, blah, 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 blah. That's all about what he's saying, like density and layers. You know what I mean? Like when pressure and like here's the ground, and then as you go up, things change in the air. Things change: temperature, pressure, density, visibility, right? Okay, but he says this. Usually the density decreases steadily from the ground up, so the rays are concave toward the surface of the Earth. This is a scientific reference because this man is a PhD in astronomical physics, and this is his life's work on this web page source. Okay? All I'm asking for, because he's got no citation here, there's no link, so he's the authority. He's saying, usually the density decreases, and so then we see concave rays bending toward the surface of the Earth. Concave. So here's my question. Can you show me everything in your claim, like concavity? Because I have no idea what that looks like, unless it simply looks like this below. Which of these images that I have taken myself, these are just generic images, like anybody could be out here taking these pictures, but here's my question. Which one of these is more concave? Like, what are you talking about? Like, is this concave? Is this concave? Is this concave? Like, where is the light concaving here? Where's the light concavitying here? Where is the light concavitying, caving, convexitying? Where are you getting the ability to say that the light is bending down or the light is bending up? Look at here, the light's bending up. Because you can't ever see more than what you're seeing here. If you try to get out here and look more close, it's not like you can, it's not like you have a family of resting lions, a pride of lions, and you can see them at a distance. You're like, let's get closer, right? If you get closer, those lines are just going to get bigger and bigger, and you can then see more details. When you're looking at the horizon, you're never, ever, ever going to get there. And then if you set someone there, there wouldn't be any lions. I see lions in the distance. I see a mirage in the distance. I see lions in the distance. I see a mirage in the distance. Go out to those lions and see what happens. Go out to the mirage and see what happens. You're never going to get there. Even if you get to the place where you think the mirage is happening, it's not there. You have to understand that the science behind what we're doing right here is purely observational. Unless you have a claim that you can demonstrate and interpret, you know what I mean? Like, okay? So what? Oh, so here's my question. I ask Andrew Thomas Young. You make a claim that usually density decreases steadily from the ground up, which always bends toward the denser material, so that the rays are now concave, okay, toward the surface of the Earth. Great, Andrew Thomas Young. Can you show me that? Are we still discussing this? Mike Van Dyke. Mike, I'm not sure. What are we discussing, Mike? What's you want to discuss something in particular? This is my research. So, all right. So I asked Andrew Thomas Young, and yes, by the way, if you're referring to whether or not we're still discussing refraction, yeah, because people are still not where they should be in understanding this discussion. Okay, so I said to Andrew Thomas Young, could you please show me your claim? Here's his response. Well, I can't just order up special atmospheric structure on demand. Right? This is a PhD. Right? This is a PhD. I can't just order up special atmospheric structure on demand. Why not? Shouldn't there be a cache? A cache? Shouldn't there be a cascading inundation of data for him to just go to and say, this is what we're talking about? Do you like to me, this is a full stop on this guy's ability to demonstrate anything that he believes. Like, I have files for looming and towering and stooping and mirage. So if he said to me, could you do that? I'm like, yeah, let me go. I'll be right back. Boom, here it is. And he says, whatever. But my point is in discussing this is to show that, look, 1951, okay? When I ask him for an example, this is what he gives me, rhetoric. These aren't pictures. I can't see this. Right, here you go. I'm just going to pick one here. 1896. Through an optical illusion, dependent on the mirage of the ice horizon, it appeared to us as if we were proceeding on the bottom of a shallow saucer-shaped cavity. I don't know what that looks like. It was thus impossible to decide whether we walked up or downhill, which could only be decided by the heaviness of the sledges of the harness. That's bullshit. What he's saying is, in description, he's saying that he's in a basin, he's in a contact lens, right? He's saying that in this concave bowl, this is concavity, right? concavity. This is concavity, right? He's saying that he's standing at the base of it, and he doesn't know if he's walking up or if he's walking down. Like, that's, no one in the world has ever, and especially I, if you're standing someplace and you're looking out, the bowl is 3 to 5 to 6 miles maybe away from you. It's out in front of you. So it seems to me like he's describing perspective, right? Because in perspective, the floor rises up before you. And if you go all the way around, then the floor is always rising up. So you're always in a bowl. Except I would never describe it that way, ever. That's not the way I would describe it. So the language of concavity and convexity, in my opinion, is not helpful. It's not helpful because it never looks convex. It never looks convex. You understand what I'm saying? If when you're looking out into the distance, if I am going to be the one who says, and I say it to Andrew Thomas Young, when I look out into the distance, I have never thought, oh my God, that's curvature, or that looks curved. I have never thought that. So who started that story? Not me. And I'm going to be the one who's going to try to put a stop to it. Stop telling that story. Because it's an imposed concept idea, right? It would only make sense that if you saw the Earth like this and you saw the Earth like this, I'm talking about orthographically, right? We never see the Earth curvature from an orthographic view, from a side-on view. When you look out in front of you to the horizon never drops away like that. Well, that's because the Earth's so big. That's the great scale negator. The Earth is so big. It is curved, but it's so big you can't see the curve until a boat goes away from you in the distance and it disappears and you can't see it anymore. Where did it go? That's the curve of the Earth. Where do you get that idea? Because the only thing that happened was the boat just kept getting farther and farther away from you. It kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So then everything that we know about physics, everything that we know about air and light and the atmospherics, I lost my train of thought because I saw Captain Caveman. What's going on, Captain Caveman? Lost my train of thought. Dagnabbit. Atmospherics. Concavity. What was I talking about? Convexity, concavity. Oh, yeah. Right? So the boat is going away from you. So when the boat's in front of you and you can see that it says Southern Cross, right? Southern Cross. And as it goes away from you, that lettering, that font gets smaller and smaller and smaller. At some point, you're going to think in your mind, I'm not able to see that name on the hull anymore. Right? What's that? Bow stern. On the stern, I can't see the name of the boat anymore. Why can't you see it? Did it go over the curve? Oh, no. That's too close for curvature to be blocking it. I can't see it right now because of XYZ. However, you're going to explain the diffusion of light so that the image gets blurred and you can't make the distinction. You lose the ability to differentiate between the word southern and the word cross. Right here in front of you, Southern Cross is separated. But as it gets farther and farther and farther and farther and farther and farther away, at some point you're not going to be able to see that anymore. Why not? Because the extinction of light at the focal point of your vision is where that information is hiding. So when that boat goes so far away from you, and according to perspective and angular resolution, the boat is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, just like Alice in Wonderland as she walks down the corridor, and the corridor looks like it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and lo and behold, she finds out when she gets there, the whole corridor has physically been getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay? So when you're looking out in the distance, the only thing that ever limits your visibility is the condition of the medium through which you were looking. I never have to appeal to curvature to explain why I can't see an object anymore. If I don't have to use curvature to explain that, curvature doesn't exist or isn't necessary. So it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. And you also have atmospheric refraction making things smaller, as Captain Caveman just said. There are so many different examples of seeing far and seeing the object a certain size, and then going out later and seeing the object at a smaller, more compact appearance. What causes that? The same thing that causes the position of the horizon. The position of the horizon, right? Go out, put someone on the horizon, have them stay in that spot. The next day, they're not going to be visually in that spot anymore. They might be invisible to you, or they might be farther away. Hey KL, yeah, thanks for making the comment about, but see, we have to understand that that's all about visual space, right? The vanishing point is the focal point when you're just talking about making observations, as far as I know. You can call it the vanishing point in my mind too, because that's where things vanish from your, that's infinity, right? That is infinite. When you look out into the distance and you just can't see that, that's infinity, because it just keeps going in that point. It just keeps going and going and going. Anyway, I had originally intended to try to think through how I would improve. And, you know, if anybody wants to jump in and talk, I'm willing to do that. Okay, KL, appreciate the comment. In your opinion, KL, in your opinion, why is that? Why is it that the human eye can only see so far? All right, so what we're doing right now is, again, we're looking for how to predict or even describe better temperature profiles. Because right now, all we have are is gobbledygook, meaningless n-1. Like, what is that? That's math. Like, show me n-1 in nature, because otherwise, what are you describing? Right? Like, there's no universal sign for cat. And every language has a different sign for cat. Gato in Spanish, cat in English. That's a different picture of the same animal, you know? But there's an animal, and then there's a CAT. So if you know how to read English, if you know how to read the language, right, this n-1 represents something out in nature. Show that to me. They can't. Alexander, you want to jump on here, my friend? Let me see if I want to just think through this anymore. Again, this is what I do. Like, I'm looking for something, right? So when he says something over here, when he says something here, and then he's got a link for me to click, and I follow it, and that link doesn't give me any information, I haven't learned anything. Okay? So tell me what, you know, like, look. This is the viewer's eye. This is the viewer's eye. Okay? So he's looking out at something this target right here. He's looking at it. This is the target here. And he has placed it behind the curve so that you can only see this portion of it right here. This portion of it is missing. Okay, that's the idea. This portion of this is missing. And this is standard. So he shows us a triangle. I don't understand this. Like, I don't ever see this out in nature. This is not helpful. Show me something that I can look at with my eyes. How about I do that? Right? So then I would go over here to my handy dandy file folder and I would find an example, let's say, of the red roof house. You can see this, right? Now, this is nearly 6 miles away, okay? And I have zoomed in to see what I can see. And this is the way the house appears on this day under these conditions, where there is no mirage. There is no mirage. Where my cursor is right now is the dock on the boat ramp at the shoreline. So guess what I can see? I can see the shoreline. Right? This is the shoreline 6 miles away from my position on the opposite shoreline. I'm looking straight across 6 miles. I should never see this shoreline under the model of the globe Earth, ever. Without refraction, of course. So then that means that this is looming. Okay, well, great. Show me this, and then show me the standard refraction, right? So if I can see this, there's nothing missing from this target. Okay, there's nothing missing from this target. I mean, sorry. From this target, there's nothing missing. I can see the bottom of the house, and I can see the shoreline. There's nothing behind the curve here. Everything is visible. This bird, and there's a white smudge here. I don't know what that is, but I do know this is the dock. Right? So this can't be a standard atmospheric condition, because we're told that the standard atmospheric condition hides almost 9/10 of the target. And this is at 10 kilometers, which is, guess what? Pretty close to 6 miles. Pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. How many miles is 10 kilometers? Might be 8 miles. Yep, 6.2, right? Look at that. 6.2 miles. That's how far away the house is. The house is basically 6.2 miles away. It's 5.87, so it's got that, whatever, right? So there should have been, right? So if this is the standard atmosphere at 10 kilometers, and at 10 kilometers it hides 9/10, then I should have at least had 7/10 of the house visible, or hidden, I mean, right? So my point in this is that show me when this house should be 7/10 hidden by the curve. It never is. It never is. The shoreline is always right here in front of you, regardless. Here's the same shot. This is without mirage. This is without mirage. But what condition is this scientifically? That it doesn't exist. What condition is this scientifically? It doesn't exist. And I'm not sure that I have the more clear Here we go. Here, look at this shot. Look at this shot, man. Phew. Look at how clear this shot is. Right? Here's the boat ramp again. Here's the shoreline. But look how much more vivid, the way that I'm seeing it, right? This image is than this image. And I even have a better image than this. But my point is that I'm having access to the shoreline here visually. But this is a different condition on a different day, even in a different season or a different year. So the profile is not going to be uniform. Like, what's the temperature profile of this image and this image? Because I'm seeing the same distance, it's just blurrier. And this image, same distance, I'm seeing the shoreline right here. The shoreline is right here. Or is it right here? Because this point of the distortion is higher than this point. Because the horizon, where the water stops and the land starts, that horizontal division between the floor and the ceiling, that part is actively moving because of the conditions of the medium. My point is that I'm still looking 6 miles away. So my ability to see 6 miles away never changes unless the conditions change. But I'm saying I always can see 6 point, like it's never behind the curve. It's always out in front of me, and it's either really, really blurry and small and smushed and compressed, or sometimes it's clear and I'm still seeing that far. I don't even know, right? Like, and then you have this where you've got this is the full floor of the house, but now the entire space between the horizon, which is this part here, the horizon here, what is creating that? It's the limit to the mirage. There's a mirage right here. Where's the rest of the boat? That's not curvature. The rest of the boat is in this space. So this is the kind of the point that I was making on Bobby Shafto's video yesterday, is that he says that the degree of the angle at which you're looking here is too minute to hide that boat. Oh yeah? Says who? Because right here, here's the hull, and here's the sail, and there's the shoreline. And there's the shoreline, but I don't have a boat. And there's a shoreline, but I don't have a boat. So if I had a boat here, I would see the hull, which means that the hull is right there in front of me, because if the conditions changed, you'd see the hull. The curvature didn't disappear and reappear. Your visibility to the target disappeared and reappeared. Why? Because of the condition of the medium through which you were looking. Again, there's no boat here. But now we have a more severe mirage, right? Because here you can see at least the floor of the house. That's the ground floor. Where's the ground floor here? This is now the sailboat, right? See how you can see the top of the sailboat, but there here it then reverts. This is the fold line. This is the vanishing line. What vanishes? The image behind that angular space in your visual field of view, right? So here we have the full target. Here we do not have the full target. We can't see the entire sailboat. Why? The same reason you can't see the entire house here, because now this is the boat. This is now the sail of the boat coming down, and now here is where the visual space is blocked. The physical visible space, you cannot see where the floor of the house is. And I would say that it's right here in the fold line, and then below it is the rest of the ground and the rest of the distance of the water going up to the house. That's the same thing as this boat right here. This is just a different preset. You're like, yeah, but look how small the angle is here. That's a non sequitur. It doesn't matter how large, right? Because this is what I call an acute mirage, because it's very small. I wouldn't be able to really see this with my naked eye. Some mirages, if you know what you're looking at, you can see with the naked eye. There were times when I would be walking out to film this target. There have been times when I am walking out, I don't even have my gear set up. I look out and I see and I predict what I'm going to see, and I've been correct. But what I'm trying to say right now is this image has an acute mirage that is so minute that if you were to see it with your naked eye, you wouldn't know there was a mirage out there. Okay? So we can have differing degrees of what Andrew Thomas Young would call altitude. Okay, so here's a little bit of a scientific lesson for you. Here is point 0. This is perspective and space. This is the ceiling coming down to the floor, and the meeting is the horizon. Okay? Horizon means division. Why? Because this is the division of your visual space. Always. Every single time. That's why you can see the tops of mountains higher than your visual vanishing point, higher than your visual focal point, because when you when you look out into the distance and there's nothing in front of you except sky and land or sky and ocean, then all you have is the floor and the ceiling. And then your focal point is where your lack of visibility begins. However, if you had an island out there, you would see the top of the island, so that the horizon at one point would have a certain altitude, 0, and then the island out there would be above that point. That's called altitude in the visual space. Does that make sense? Because here is the ground, here is the floor, and that stops. That's 0. Now you're going up in altitude because you're going away from the floor. Okay, so this is altitude. So the altitude of the mirage in this image is like severely small. I don't even know like arc minutes and all that bullshit. Like that's not in my vernacular. But someone who could like be like, yeah, that's like 0.0 aught of an arc minute. Whatever. That's like really tiny. That's like a see you next Tuesday hair out there on the horizon. Can you see that hair? Can you see this hair? No. Right? That's what we're talking about. However, now we have a much more severe mirage. This is an obtuser mirage. And more than likely, you could see this with your naked eye if you knew what you were looking at. Otherwise, you just might see, oh, that's just one solid object if you didn't know what this house really looked like. Right? All right. Where am I going? This is the other thing that science does not discuss. If it implies it, it's very, very obtuse. It's very hidden. It's not enjoyable to try to decipher scientific gobbledygook that's based on scientific gobbledygook. So in my opinion, the reason why concavity and convexity is brought into the discussion is because, you know, even if you have what Andrew Thomas Young says, let's see, excuse me real quick, I'm trying to remember where I was reading it. I think it was in the email. So in the quote, and I quote, so this is, I'm quoting him. I'm quoting Andrew Thomas Young. Light rays within the Earth's atmosphere bend continuously. Now that's refraction, right? It bends, like if you have, again, I know you know this, you've got a glass of water and you put a pencil in it, that image bends. But that's not curvature, right? Okay? However, there's an assumption here of the Earth's atmosphere curving, which is why they talk about curvature. Usually the density decreases steadily from the ground up so that the rays, which always bend toward the denser material, are concave toward the surface of the Earth. Concave, convex, concave, no. Convex, concave. All right. This is not the quote. I'm trying to think of the quote where, please bear with me in real time. Listen to the sultry sounds of conspiracy music guru. I want to show with justification the fact that he just simply assumes curvature with the rays, and I'm trying to remember where I read it. Let me see if I can just find it. It's helpful to just read his stuff again anyway. When abnormal refraction increases the apparent elevation of distant objects, often lifting above the horizon things normally below it, the process is described as looming, right? So this is right, he's talking about looming and sinking, and then he shows with a quote the idea of what looming is. So looming is the idea that distant objects normally below the horizon. That language is intentional because I never say that target is below the horizon. I say it's beyond the horizon. It might be behind a refraction phenomenon, but it's never below the horizon. That language in 1932 is language of convexity. The reason why you can't see that target is because the Earth is curved. But listen to the inconsistency in that there are times when you can see it, and that's looming. So when abnormal refraction, that means it's an anomaly, right? That means it doesn't happen very often. Let's just say when certain refraction increases the apparent elevation of distant objects, you have to think about what's being said. Elevation from what? Elevation from what? Let me see if I can hold my thought long enough to find this image. I think I would have to go to a different file. I can't think of where that one is right now. Let me see if maybe I had it pulled up, because I've had so many other files open. Is it the same folder? I appreciate the fact that you guys are hanging out because it's all about the chat. So I'm going to take this moment just to say thank you very much for everyone who's in the chat right now. I'm not looking, well, I might as well just do something to do that. Might as well just do it right now. Hey, Cleary, what's going on, man? Yeah, you guys keep the chat going. Make sure, we've got 73%. We have 73% on the poll. Make sure, please, that you are joining the comments, saying hello to people, getting to know each other, encouraging each other, right? And yeah, make sure you share the content, get more people into the chat here. That's where, because like I'm not paying attention to you guys, so it's not about me, it's about you. And I'm going back to try to find the example that I was thinking of so I can show it to you. All right, I'm trying to get my thoughts in line. I'm a little bit stoned. So I'm a little bit distractimacated. Okay, so then this is that. Let me think of going back to... and if anybody wants me to react to something or, you know, interact with you, just tag me. Yeah, smash that Fonzarelli as well. Thanks so much, Maria. You're right. By the way, you're free to visit me in Colorado anytime. Just hit me up, and we'll make it happen. Okay. Pictures, Aether Band, and Mirage Explanation. Let me see what I have here. Magnification lens, Fata Morgana. All right. See, I've made panels here, so man, I've had so much in my head of how to improve this discussion. It's just limitless. Honestly, this is something that needs to be funded. I mean, like, yeah, I want to be that guy. I'm not lying, right? I'd be lying to you. This is the dream, the American dream. Follow your dreams. Like, it could be anything that you can dream that you can be. Okay, so how am I going to be that guy on a TED Talk? Not to be on a TED Talk, but the audience to come and listen to a lecture on atmospheric refraction. Right? Like, I can't hardly get anyone to respond by email. Anyway, the thing is that, yeah, it's not just about going around and giving lectures. It's about getting funded to recreate the science literature. Because the science is all based on a biased model that requires curvature, because looming assumes that the lack of visibility is due to the position of the horizon, which is the curve of the Earth. That's the base assumption. But as I've said before, and I'll say it again, that's an unnecessary appeal to something that is labeled special pleading. You're making a special plea. Like, this has to be the case in order for this to happen. This is a special pleading case. We wouldn't see this otherwise, and isn't that the, you know, the Hail Mary accusation? Still trying to find that example, and I'm just going to take my time to do it. We got focal length here, and I'm looking probably for the horizon. Santa Barbara horizon. There we go. Nope. Let me see focal length one more time. See what this looks like. Right? Okay. Okay, so these are the same. This is the same target, right? This is the same target. You guys can see this? I think this should be a decent example of what we're talking about here, right? This is Platform Gina. I love her. I think she's beautiful. She reminds me of an AT-AT sometimes. I've had pictures of Gina. I've had video of Gina in a Fata Morgana, and she looks like an AT-AT on the horizon. It's beautiful. Here we have the buoy marker. Here we have the buoy marker. Here we have the buoy marker. I am shooting Gina from about 4 miles. 4 miles. 4 miles. 4 miles. And I'm on the San Buenaventura beach in Ventura, and this is the marker. As you can see, I try my best to always take my photographs as consistently as possible, so the orientation of the buoy is helpful. You see how clear the buoy looks here, and then how distorted it is here, and how distorted it is here. Look how far away in arc minutes, however many that is, how far away in arc minutes the horizon is from the buoy, right? So now the question becomes, what is this? This is the limitation of the floor of your visual space. Why is it the limitation? Because here I see water, and I can see this small little ripple cap, this little ripple cap, that ripple cap, that ripple cap, that ripple cap. But back here, I don't see any more ripple caps. I mean, like, it just gets washed into this blue, okay? Everything in the distance, everything in the distance is right here at this point of focus, and you can't see it because of the limitation of the conditions of the medium through which you are looking, which is the same thing here, except here, you see Gina? If I zoomed in even closer or changed the levels, you could see the space between this crane, you know, the cross beams. You'd be able to see the space between. You can't see it here. Why not? Because the conditions of the medium are affecting. Are you seeing the platform touch the water? Yeah, you are. You know that, right? So what we have to realize now here is that, taking it for granted that I'm on the shoreline, why is this image higher than this image? You see how the horizon's right here, but down here, it's down here. And then in this one, it almost lines up, right? But even though this is a different visual image. So now let's go back here, going back to the horizon. Here's the horizon and its distance to the buoy. Do you think that this space here that you're seeing here to the buoy is larger? I do. There's more water between the horizon and the buoy than there is here. So, in this discussion here, this would be an example of what I think Andrew Thomas Young would call the standard atmosphere, except for the fact that 7/10 of this target isn't missing, right? Because if you think about the science, in the standard atmosphere, targets are hidden in the distance. That's what they're saying. The standard atmosphere hides, right? So then, I guess this isn't standard atmosphere. So can you show me? Andrew Thomas Young says, no, I can't. You think I could just go out and see the standard atmosphere any old time I want? I'm like, fuck yeah. This is science, right? Do you see how this void needs someone to step in and present information that even Andrew Thomas Young can't seem to fathom exists? But he'll tell you, but I can draw you a diagram of these rays and show me that out in nature. Oh, I can't do that. You think I could just go out and find that? You think it's just lions lying around everywhere? I don't know why I'm talking like that. I'm just triggered. This science needs an enema. Back to the point here. We have a position of the horizon that has increased between the buoy and Platform Gina. Platform Gina is not behind the horizon. I'm sorry, Platform Gina is not below. It's not behind the horizon either. Platform Gina is not below the horizon here. Her feet are not behind the curve. You have compression and displacement and distortion happening. How can I say that? Well, because in this instance, you have even more distortion, but you have more water between. How did there get more water between? It basically, this is the idea. Instead of trying to think of, well, maybe I'll just use this piece of paper, I guess, right? This piece of paper represents the surface of the Earth. The argument from them is that the limitation, right? Now you can see my finger, right? Now you can't. Why? Because the physical shape of the paper is convex, right? So in the globe model, if you're looking out on the horizon, right? This is the horizon and you can't see anything beyond it. Just pretend like you can't see anything beyond the horizon. And then you go out the next day and lo and behold, you see something. That's what they say happens, that the refraction does this to the surface of the Earth visually. Not really, but visually, right? And that means that you have to defy spatial time with an expanse, right? Because here is the limit. Here's the limit. But then the next day you get to see farther. That's like stretching reality, right? So my explanation, I don't need to describe the Earth curved. You see how the Earth is raised up like that? I do think that the Earth visually looks like that. But the limitation that you're looking at right there is refractive. Because when the refraction changes, it looks like this. And sometimes when the refraction changes, I'm doing this off the top of my head. Sometimes when the refraction changes, it makes the horizon look like this, so that you have a mirage. Right here, here's the vanishing line. That's the vanishing line. This is the target, right? Like every single time. Why does the horizon look like this? Refraction. Why does the horizon look like this? Refraction. Why does the horizon look like this? Refraction. But not in the globe model. Why does the refraction look like, or why does the Earth look like this? Refraction. Why does the Earth look like this? Refraction. Why does the Earth look convex? The Earth's a globe. Earth's a globe. That's the science. They think obstruction is Earth curvature. It never is. It's always refraction. Always. With or without mirage. Okay? We are seeing Gina with her feet touching the surface of the water. But that's the limitation of what we can see. That's the limitation, right? It's almost like 3-4 miles, right? Because we don't see. So now here, you see how Gina is raised up a bit? She's raised up from the horizon. There's space between. Here, the space is diminished. And it looks to me, no, in fact, look at this. Look at this. You see where the horizon is right here on this buoy? Look where it is on this buoy. It's right here. The horizon has been loomed up, but you're not seeing over the curve because Gina is still right here. Like she's always right here. This is always right here at her feet. So Gina's feet are right here on the water, just like the base of this buoy is right here. If this were far enough away, you would lose sight of the base of the buoy. But the base of the buoy is right there. It just is still, it's still this concept that you have to get into your mind of foreshortening, right? Foreshortening. This is the way we see. This is a top down. You're looking top down. You're a drone looking top down. And now you are lowering and lowering and lowering and lowering and lowering. So you're a drone. Let's say you're 5 miles up. 5 miles up. So then this is 10 miles of distance. 10 miles, right? This is what 10 miles looks like at a 90-degree angle. And then you start to lower. You see what's happening? The horizon is now getting farther and farther and farther away from you. Farther and farther. And can you see now? Like right here, right? You see what? Can you see what number that is? Can you see what number that is? Right? Number 40. Tell me when you no longer can distinguish what that image looks like. Have you lost the 4 and the 0 yet? Will you? Do you think you will? Oh no, I can still see that it's a 4 and a 0. Okay, do you think it's going to stay that way as you drop your focal point? Do you see what I'm saying? It's always 10 miles. Or wherever the distance is. This is still the limitation of your vision, but it's only 10 miles away. And sometimes it can look like this, and sometimes it can look like this, but that's still 10 miles. You get what I'm saying? If I could fold this in on itself, right, like I was doing, right? Oh my Jesus. If this is the target 5 miles away, and it looks like this in an inferior mirage, and then the next day it looks just like it's the one target, that's still 5 miles away. It doesn't matter how this has changed. It doesn't matter that you can't see the feet. Oh, I can't see the feet, Jared. There must be like 12 feet missing here. If you have to beg the question that hard, I don't really want to talk to you because the evidence is clear that it's always refraction. The limitation of your visual space in the distance, regardless of whether it's over terrestrial or aquatic distance, the only limitation to your ability to see anything is distance and the condition of the medium through which you were looking, right? Because I can see everything clearly here. I can even see clearly here. But as you look farther and farther and farther and farther away, you lose clarity. You lose lucidity. You lose visibility due to opacity. But which of these is the standard, right? Because I'm seeing the target 5 miles away or 4 miles away. And it looks different. It looks smaller here. It looks bigger here. And these are the same focal lengths. Right? So my complaint is, Andrew Thomas Young, why don't you let me give you examples of what you think match this? Again, let me point out, please listen to me. Let me point out, this is given to us as the standard atmosphere. Standard. So, for Andrew Thomas Young, does that mean that if this image were a, because we're over water here, right? Let's make this target Anacapa Island. No, that's too far away. I suppose if I'm going to try to keep it 6 miles, it would have to be Emma Wood. I don't know, man. I'm just trying to stay consistent with this image, right? Because he's got it over. No, I guess that's okay. That's fine. Look it up. This is the Chesapeake Bay, and this is the Red Roof House. Okay, this is the Red Roof House. because 10 kilometers is 6.2 miles, but the red roof house is only 5.87, right? So then you should be able to mathematically adjust this scale and show me how much of the house should be hidden at that distance. But it's so close, in my opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong, everybody out there. Yeah, I know the standard is fake. Right? So let me do this. Let's do this. I'm just going to create this right now. Okay? I'm going to do this for the sake of science. Let's take a screenshot. No. All right, and in this screenshot, I am going to paint. Alrighty then. And then I am going to impose on this a photograph of the red roof house. And let's see. Focal points, right? Or focal lengths. No. Okay, well, we'll just see. Focal length. Red roof house, focal length. I want to find one that's absolutely clear. And so many times I've done it, but I don't remember which file I put it into. So that one doesn't have a clear one. So I have to go to which year I know, which was, I think, 2020. In December, and let's see, I think this is it. Yeah, see how clear that is? Look at that, right? Look how beautiful that picture is. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is the target that I'm going to give to Andrew Thomas Young, right? So, a needle pulling thread. This is going to be the target in full. I have a full visualization of a target nearly as far away as the modeled image, and I can see the entire thing. So this must be looming, right? All right, I'm going to create a new folder for this. This is going to be Andrew Thomas Young model images. Okay. You know, like, I would love to be able to, well, I mean, I guess I could. I'll just send him an email and say, look, I'm starting a new email thread on this, but am I to understand that you're telling me that 9/10 of this target is being hidden at 10 kilometers, and you're saying that's a standard atmosphere, that's standard, right? So by standard, you're saying, like, basically, every time I go out, that's basically what I should see. Is that what you're telling me? Yeah, more or less. Okay. Can you model for me what this target would look like at 5.87 miles? Because 10 kilometers is 6.2. So you're like 0.2 away. I'm like 0.2 away as well. So that's like the medium still. I'm still right in the, like, my target should then always look like what you're telling me this triangle looks like. It's insane. Because it never looks like that. Unless you're looking at something fucking farther away, and you just don't know how to interpret the data you're looking at. And now I'm going to create a cropped image of this, right? That's like 9/10. Right? But see how big it gets? So then, that's what she said. So then I'm going to do this. Okay. And then I think I can change the... See if I resize it, maybe 50%. Okay. All right, so now if I go to here and I want to impose the image, all right. Right there. That's pretty good. Right? You guys following what I'm putting up? Like, this is what he says I should see. Every time. Standard. I've never, ever seen this at 6 miles. So, like, where is this, Andrew Thomas Young? Like, what... Like, where does this exist that you're like, what is this? What do you, can you show me this target? Obviously, this is a target that you are modeling. So tell me what this target is. Let me give you another example. Man, this is, oh, whatever. So, okay. So here's this. I'm going to also put in this. Because I think it's important to understand how much visibility I've had. And this is not even the best image that I've found of this house. I thought it was in this folder. There's another one. It's beautiful. I mean, I think it's gorgeous, but it's just now washed out. You see this, right? And this is with, this is the regular setting, and then I changed the levels, right? But all of the information is right here. Like this is the boat dock. That's the boat dock. If I asked you to find the boat dock here, you know, like this looks just as brown as that does. Like, how would you know what you? I know what I'm looking at because I've seen this with my naked eye. Crystal clear. And so then that's that. Man, I could have sworn that this was the file for that. I have so many ADHD shenanigans. Okay. So the one thing that I wanted to show you is another example of how these scientific classifications are in serious need of remedy. Alright, I'm going to have to look for my barge pictures somewhere else because I don't see them here. Barge. However, Grace, Mirage explanation, maybe in here. wonder if this is... Yeah, that's the same. Right, but I mean, just look at this, right? I know I'm all over the place. Look at this. Okay, look. If you want to pay attention right now, I want to show you a bit of my methodology if you haven't seen me in action. This should not be too tedious unless you don't like the sultry sound of my voice. Let me check the chat real quick. All right, well, I haven't seen much. It's 10:42, so it's been 4 minutes. And no, is anybody out there still? Are you guys hanging out or what? This is all for posterity too. Anyway, this is like research and getting it in this. Okay, here is a target 5.87 miles away that I have called the Red Roof House. This is a pavilion, this is a boat dock, this is a boat ramp, this is a farther house here hidden in the canopy. I have been to the other side, taken pictures from the other side back and blah, 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 okay? I've been here. We are looking at the shoreline. Can you show me where the boat ramp is? Because the boat ramp is going to be elevated, right? Above the water. Here's where the boat is. Here's where the boat is. I have video that I set up on this spot. And I didn't see what I had captured until later. And I captured a boat going to the ramp and getting pulled out and driven away. We can listen to me very carefully. Please listen to me very carefully. We are always seeing, at this point, we are always seeing 5.87 miles away every single time, regardless of whether or not you can see what you think you should be able to see. Because here, if I zoom in, you can see the freaking pilings of the boat dock. There's one pile, there's one pile, there's one pile, there's one piling, there's one piling, there's the other corner piling. These are, can you show me where the picnic tables are? Those all that little smudgy bullshit right there, that's where the picnic tables are. Can you show me where the shoreline starts? Because we kind of like sees that this is murky water in the Chesapeake Bay, but it's like right there. There's the shoreline right there. But even there, you lose visual acuity. And we're zooming in on shit that you like. This is even zoomed in. So if I backed out farther and farther and farther away, I can't see the picnic tables. Therefore, they're behind the curve. No. If you can see a target 10 kilometers away, every single time you see that target, you're seeing that same distance under different refractive indices. Okay? Anyway, this is the way I set up my position. Thankfully, there was a 5G tower over here that I placed in the top left corner. This is the orientation. If you looked at the height here of this, it's going to be a little bit higher than this. But I have them where they're pretty right on, and it's still the same thing. So look here, watch. This is the disparaging idea of angular resolution, okay? Perspective and angular resolution, right? This is the distance between me and the Red Roof House. This is the distance between me and the Red Roof House. If we take it for granted that this is a location of this, I could just do this. Let me do it this way. All right. So there's the top of that tower, and you can see that it is higher than the other one. I'm not going to quibble with you about where my position was. I'm not doing that. I set up on the shoreline in the same place every single time. On the shoreline, sometimes in the water, because there was a no fishing or a no swimming post that I was next to, and that would be my position, my fixed position. So if I set up my camera in the same place and use the same camera and use the same focal length, why aren't these two images exactly the same? Besides the coloring of the foliage depending on the season. Okay, here we go. Here is the top of the tower here. Here's the top of the tree line here. Do you see anything? Like, why is there more space here? Why is there less space here? Right? It's not spatially accurate, which means you can't blink test shit because this isn't actual size. Now, take this idea of spatial, right? So you have, oh, let's do this. Let's do another line that shows the position of this one so that we have a rough idea of the space between, right? So now we have this space between, right? So because this is that much higher than this one, we'll say like, oh, I'm going to take it for granted. Maybe things are going to be displaced a little bit proportionally. Look at where the water line falls here. Right? Both of these cameras are at the same focal length. Then why is the water higher than here? So now you have that much visual space represented, right? So now you have this much farther water in this space here. You understand? Like, this is so abstract. Do you like, you see how the water looks like you're closer to it, but the water here looks like you're farther away? Why is that? It's because the air is making the water look like this on one day and like this on one day, but the distance is still the same, right? Sometimes the water looks like it's closer to you, which means that, you know, this is far away, this is closer too. Because when it gets closer to you. Because you have less in your visual space. Why is there less available? Why is there less target available in one image? Because the air has adjusted the film or adjusted the lens at that focal point in through the air, because you're looking through a you're looking through an active corridor of light and space and conditions of the medium. Okay? So even with this image here, you know, if you looked at, we zoomed in, right? And we could see even more detail, but you can see details on this part of the dock that aren't as clear, but it's the same distance, right? It's the same distance, right? So why isn't it just as clear? Because the conditions of the medium are the arbiter, the one who decides how this image will be presented to you. And in this image, it lifted up the target because look at where the house is. Look at where the base of the house is. Okay. All right. I was looking for barges. I saw one. Okay, I think I'm going to use this one. All right. Come on, you monkey. There we go. All right. Okay. This is a tale of two ocean liners or barges or freighters, whatever. Okay? I was talking about always seeing the same distance. Always seeing the same distance. This is the Chesapeake Bay. This is the cape, the final cape that you see before it rounds and goes farther south. Okay, I have images of boats going behind and coming from behind. Okay, I have seen farther. However, what I'm going to present to you right now is that this barge, do you think that this is a barge? Do you believe me just in general? It doesn't look like one. It looks like kind of like something from Star Wars. Yeah. But taking it for granted, like I'm telling you that here's where the captain is and here's where the container is for all the coal or the what's the word where you have a quarry, you know, whatever they quarry out, okay? So this is coming back empty. This is the lane that this barge can... The Chesapeake Bay can be very shallow at points. And they have you have to stay in your lanes. So if you would grant it, you know, for the sake of the argument, that this is 4 miles away, okay? This is a boat. No, this is not the barge. I thought that this was the barge one. No. All right, I know that I have one with barge, so I'm just gonna try to find it. All right. See, this is what, like, I know that I've made a file. So that's that. Let's look for barge. It might be in a boats in the band file. Let me see if I can figure that out. Boats in the band. Future content. Barge. Haha. Except it's not still images. I wanted still images. Here's another shot of the red roof house. I think this... I can't tell. Is this the same one? that might be still the same one. Barge. I see a barge here, so hopefully one of these is gonna, nope. Man, oh man. Okay, let me go back to this search here for a barge and see what comes up. Because what I'm going to try to show you is that the barge is in the water, and with or without mirage, your limitation of that barge or the distortion of that barge depends on the condition of the medium. But that barge is always in that same channel regardless of the conditions of the day, so you're always looking. So sometimes you can't see the barge or the bottom of it, and it looks like it's floating like that one did. And sometimes you can see it, and you can actually see water beyond it. Barge. Here we go. Here's a barge panel. There we go. Okay. Here is the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. Without the barge, okay? We have an inferior mirage here. We have a mirage, right? This is sky, okay? I'm a little bit distracted now because I'm thinking about the Flying Dutchman. If someone had seen this image out on the horizon in the ocean, they would not have ever created this idea that the reason why we see boats above the horizon sometimes is because that boat is beyond the curve and refraction is bringing it up like magic. That's where all of these stories come from. The Flying Dutchman, the Fata Morgana, these are all fairy tale-y, fable-esque, mythological. And so my point is this. If all you saw in front of you was just this, let's pretend like this was a ship, and you saw that you're like, this is the sky, this is the sky, this is the sky, this is the sky. What is this out here? It must be flying in the sky. Because this is the limit of the water that you can see, yeah. But as we pan out, we have a landscape that's 12 miles away. This cape is 10 miles away, and this cape is 6 miles away. We know that this cape touches the water. In the globe model, that is being loomed up from behind this curve. Otherwise, you wouldn't see it. Because here's the top, here's the top, here's the canopy, here's the canopy, here's the canopy. If you kept following this angle down, this is where the water is right here. So then you go over here, boom, which is in the middle of, this is the fold line. This is where the shoreline is that you can't see. It's right here in front of you. It's not being loomed up from anything. So if they had this kind of perspective to look at, they would have debunked the idea that this 12 miles away is behind the curve. Why? Because the nature of a mirage requires that the entire target is there in front of you. Otherwise, it wouldn't appear this way. It has to be directly in front of you in order to be inverted. I don't know if that makes any sense. Okay, so now we're going to come across here, and now we have a different condition, but we have the barge right here, and underneath the barge is this part of the landscape up here. The ceiling is being mirrored at the angle that it is. Right? So here's the limit of the mirage. This is the limit of the mirage. What does it limit? The limit of the mirage limits how much of the mirage is reflecting the target, because the entire target is right here. You just can't see the hull at the waterline because of the refractive index, which is creating obstruction. Otherwise, this entire vision would look differently. And there you go. This is the same location Do you see a difference? And yet, even this has a mirage right here. It's very slight. And then there it is in the background. Do you see this right here? This is a farther, this is near, and this is far. Where is this? Here, you can't even see the land. It's swallowed up. This is earlier in the morning, I'll grant you that, but I'm telling you right now, this is just showing you the tree inverted here. However, here in the background, this is a mirage. Okay, what that means is this. Please listen very carefully. Here's the water, here's the water, here's the water. The water stops visually. Why? Because there is a mirage. Just like right here. Why can't I see any more water? Oh, there's some water. Oh, there's some water, because those ripples are breaking the band. That plane of this surface that Andrew Thomas Young says doesn't exist, and goes through an entire article to argue against this very idea that at this angle, the density of the air is behaving like a reflective surface. How else are you going to describe this? What else is this? Because we have an example of this ripple breaking that plane. Okay? So now, I mean, just look at this. This is the same thing as this under different conditions. This is crazy. Here's the tree above the bow. Here's the tree above the bow. And then here's the tree, and here is the focal point, and this is where the barge is. This is a still shot from a video. I've got video of this. The barge is that much farther away. You see how far away that barge looks? But you know how far away it is? This far. This is what 4 miles looks like. And so is this. And so is this. So now we have the tree line right here, this tree line. Can you see? You can see that looks like one solid tree. But here it looks like the canopy's right here, and then it's not as solid as I would have thought. And then you have the horizon right here. And this is what I think I would call an example of sinking, because there may be a mirage right there. Yeah, there is. Okay, so this is a very acute mirage, a very, very acute mirage that's farther away in the distance. Okay, but this mirage is much closer in the distance. Right? All right, I don't know, man. Distracted. Okay, so what I've got to do now is transfer all of this stuff to where I need it now. Right. Oh, this is in a search. Should I open this file location? It's weird. I just left that panel in some random. This is another image of the barge, and there's the tree, and this is a mirage right here. Here's the barge in a mirage. Here's the barge in a mirage. Look at that. You see, look. See, you can see the entire thing here. In this one, all you can see is the captain's deck, and it just gets farther and farther and farther and farther away. All right. Anyway, found this. This needs to be dropped into here. And here, and I'll put it there, go back. Oh, I thought it was going to take me back to the other thing. There we go. Where's this? Okay, so then this needs to get dropped down to the same place. I'm just going to put it in there as a folder. There we go. Somebody can tell B flat that I'm live right now. I'll talk to him. Heath Carmody. B flat. Oh, what the hell time is it? 11:11, baby. I saw 11:11 last night too. All right, so that's transferring right now. Let me get back to the fact that I was editing this, right? Okay. I'm going to send this to Andrew Thomas Young. So I want to give him as much information as possible. Okay, so that's what that looks like. I think I'm going to make it 15. Nope. Okay. Okay. This is my attempt to an actual example of your model of your model. Correct me if I'm wrong, but 10 kilometers is just over 6 miles. So, this target is 5.87 miles away, making it just under. Making it just under 10 kilometers. Yet, I yet I have never seen your diagram in nature. No. I have never seen your diagram expressed by this target. Why is that? Does not your model imply the target should be 9/10 obscured? Two-thirds? Should I just say two-thirds? Two-thirds obscured? Yet, I have hundreds of direct line of sight to the same target. Okay, hold on. Yet I have hundreds, thousands. So I was just thinking of what I was actually saying. Thousands of direct line of sight to the same target, nearly 10 kilometers away. Yet I have thousands of direct line of sight to the same target. Like, he should be, for him, the limitation of the water here is the curve of the earth. That's why you can't see. Like, that's the curve. So I don't even have to say anything more about flat earth to this guy. I just simply have to tell him, I always see this target 6 miles away. The only time I never see it is due to refraction. So that has to be the answer for everything every single time, because that's the only constant is refraction, with or without mirage. This is my attempt to provide you with an actual example. I forgot I can move this. Oh, don't. This is my attempt to provide you with an actual example of your modeling. Correct me if I'm wrong, but 10 kilometers is just over 6 miles. So this target is 5.87 miles away, making it just under 10 kilometers. So here's what I'm intimating. If this is what 10 kilometers looks like, if this house were 0.2 kilometers closer, how much more of the house would we see? You know, like this. I mean, I would have to. We have to change the. No, that's not going to be it. No, that's not what I wanted. What am I wanting? I wanted to make it more. Okay, there you go. That's what I got. So that means I have to. I've got all these freaking folders open. Now I gotta remember where I put those. There you go. Alright, so then this gets cropped. But you see, what's going to happen right now is I have to mock the refraction because the scaling of this is going to change. Right? Because when I break it in, when I come in closer, you see how I just brought it closer to me? That's called magnification. So like this is like what would happen out there. There's two things happening. You have proximate refraction and you have distant refraction, and the horizon is the point at which that plane takes a bend, if you will. I think that's pretty interesting to think about. I never thought about that till just now, so you're welcome. Because that was a pretty amazing connection to think about. Maybe I'll have to expound on that. Do you guys understand what I meant by that? Does that make sense, what I just said? All right, so then I close this, and now I drag this here, add it, change the opacity so you can see the difference. Okay, so now it's going to come in here. So, well, I guess I would, yeah, because I wanted to keep it. All right, let me think about what I'm doing. What I'm doing right now is I have to change what this would look like at, if I added, what am I trying to think of? Like, what's the, I guess I'm saying if I added 5.87 miles is 0.13 miles away from 6. So it's closer to the distance than, anyway, maybe I'm thinking about this all wrong. Okay, whatever. 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles. The house is just shy of that by, I guess, almost half a mile. Would that be it? Would that be correct? Because you're 6.2 and then you add 1.3 to it, so that's 0.3. I guess a third of a mile. 33. A third of a mile, right? So then if this is what 10 kilometers looks like, then the house should. Oh, I guess I should just keep it the same size. Oh, I guess I can't do that, right? Because I have to change everything. Right? So I try to keep this. So now this is what it looks like at 6.2 miles. And then this is what it should look like all the time. All the time. Why? Because that's not what I wanted. I guess I have my, right? Because this water, the reason why it stops here in this model, it's right here. The visual space stops right here. This is right here. This is cutting off. The curve of the Earth is cutting off 2/3 of the target. Otherwise, you'd see it if the Earth were flat. No, that's what it looks like on flat Earth too. But it's always refraction that's creating that position, that apparent position of the target. But like I've said, in 7 years of filming this, Andrew Thomas Young, why have I never, ever, 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 ever seen such an example of sinking? Unless I'm misunderstanding things, guys. I mean, look, right? You have the target here. And it's showing you above this line what you can see. This is where I'm saying that we apply the same thing to the mirage when you're looking out into the distance, because sometimes, let's say for instance, if we moved 12 kilometers away, I venture to say he would say you wouldn't see it at all. So then there would be nothing to see. So then if you go out the next day and you're like, oh, look at, there's something there that wasn't there before, right? So now the refraction has loomed that part up to go peekaboo, hi, there's curvature over here. Oh, curvature. Oh, refraction. Oh, curvature. No. Refraction, 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 double the image refraction. It's always refraction. It's never, ever, 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 ever. Because the Earth is curving away. All right. So that's what that is. That's what that is. I got to do the text again now. This is my attempt to provide you with an actual example of your modeling. Correct me if I'm wrong, but 10 kilometers is just over 6 miles. So this target is 5.87 miles away, making it just under 10 kilometers. Yet, I have never seen your diagram expressed by this target. Why is that? Does your model not imply the target should be 2/3 obscured? Yet I have thousands of direct lines of sight to the same target nearly 10 kilometers away. This the left overlays exhibit the left overlays exhibit what I am interpreting. Left overlays exhibit what I am interpreting to be the the left overlays are exhibit what I am interpreting to be the model's implication. The first image represents the standard at 10 kilometers. The transparent image shows what I am guessing the house should appear again as the standard, right? I am guessing the house should appear just a bit more exposed lying just shy of 10 kilometers. Right? I'm trying to give him an example. I'm trying to give him an example of the absurdity of his concept. He's going to have to say, I believe, that the indication is that this vertical image here, or this image here, is obstructed more than it is revealed. So that's how I'm dividing this in terms of, like, okay, so if I were to see this in nature, here's the target, this is the target, I know what the target looks like, but I'm only seeing this much. Is that what you're saying? He would have to say yes. And then I'm saying to him, I've never seen this. Anywhere. No, that's not true. That's not true. I have, but there's a mirage. But it's, again, it's just more and more evidence in my mind that this model is just absurd. It just breaks down. There's no, this point right here where the loss of your light, that's the focal point. Right? You can only see 5 kilometers. Right? Because that's where this line is. Right there. Boom. Right there is where you lose the visibility of the lower portion of this target. Why do you lose the lower? Because that's where your focal point is. That's where you're looking. All right. I'm not sure why this came out as a different color. All right. I'm just trying to, I want to make this as profound of an example to him as I can. But I thought about showing you this too in just a second ago. Right? So let's look and see what we're talking about here, because we're talking about looming. So looming assumes that you cannot see the target because the target is normally hidden behind the horizon. And that's pretty standard here, demonstrated here in the standard atmosphere, right? All right. And so in the standard atmosphere, you have a visual limitation here. And if we then drop down to the scale, that is roughly 5 kilometers away, which is roughly 3 miles away, which is roughly the distance that we're told, even by maritime, Farmer's Almanac stuff, all that kind of stuff. It's roughly 3 miles away. But what happens when you can see 9 miles away, which I've done, and 12 miles away, and 19 miles away, and other people farther? Then the limitation of your eye isn't standard. It's just not. There's no such thing as standard. My point is simply that taking this as a reference point of the limitation of your visibility, if you were to flatten this, it would stay in the same place. And it would move closer to you on some days and farther away on some days, and you would be able to see more of the thing and less of the thing and some of the thing, and repeat, but that's always refraction. And that point right there, so that this is what they've done, right? If you can imagine in your mind right now that I could flatten this out and show you that this is still going to be the same thing, I can diagram this to you, right? This is the point that I'm trying to make with Andrew Thomas Young. Like, okay, here's what I should do. I should ask him very kindly and even offer to pay him for his time to find me an example in reality of this. Because someone would have had to have taken the same photographs over and over and over and over again. And if they're anything like me, they wouldn't say this bullshit. This is bullshit. What I'm trying to communicate to you is that they have curved the way that we see, the way that our eyes are limited, because the limitation in our ability to see is the same distance on both models, right? So once you get to the point of the horizon in my model, refraction explains why it looks like that. However, in this model, it's refraction and curvature. And there's absolutely zero reason to bring in the other part for which there is no evidence, except for the evidence of the horizon, which they are looking at. So they're saying the Earth must be curved if we see limitation to our eyesight in the distance. We see limitation to our eyesight in the distance, therefore the Earth is curved. No. But yeah. That's their argumentation. Slow down and listen very carefully, because I can send you an article that demonstrates the author's inability to understand that he is doing the exact same thing he's accusing his subject of. In this paper, did Monge describe in the inferior mirage? It's a critical paper that is just citation after citation of other people who are critical, and the information is so vague, it's not a great article. I had to have spent a lot of time reading it. But there is a critical part of the paper where he's criticizing Monge's perspective that it's the plane of the angle, it's the angle of the plane that the mirage is happening in. And at that angle, it's creating, through the density layer of the air through which you're looking, that becomes a surface. That's the way he described it. And he was just getting ripped to shreds by everybody. But that's the way I would describe it. So I would have been on his side. And we would have been in the minority. And the peers would have won. All because they don't, because all they say is, that can't happen. That doesn't happen. That can't happen. Great, show me what you're talking about that does happen. Crickets. if we were to flatten this diagram out, you would still have a 0 point, which is the horizon, which would be right here. So if this were to flatten out, this would come up to here, boop, and this would roughly be 5 kilometers away. So then 5 kilometers standard is where, but it's not, because 5 kilometers is only 3 miles. And I constantly, always see 6 miles with the red roof house. Always. With or without mirage. I'm still seeing 6 miles. It's right there in front of me. And it just gets shifted up in perspective and brought out in perspective and shifted up in perspective and twisted in perspective. It's all about perspective. And if I could create this, 3D graphic image of what I'm talking about, it's a kaleidoscope of just beatific, etheric beauty. I think that I have to focus right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop live streaming because I really, 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 honest to God, something has to be done. The science has to be corrected. I have to find a way to get someone's smurfing ear. I mean, he is so closed-minded. So many times even if I suggest something, he's so closed-minded. No, it can't be that. I'm like, but listen, but you use conceptual terms like rays of light and standard refraction. Those are not real. You can do that. Oh, that's okay. But when I say, I think it's acting like this, you're like, nope, it doesn't do that. I'm like, yeah, but it's like that. Nope, it's not anything like that. Why? Because that way of looking at it doesn't need an appeal to the surface of the earth. The only time you need to appeal to the surface of the earth, and it's an effect, it's not a cause. It's an effect, it's not a cause. It's an effect, it's not a cause. When you're looking out into the distance, the only time you need to appeal to the earth is when you see, or when you try to offer explanation as to why you see, why you can't see it anymore. And the only reason why you can't see it anymore is due to the condition of the medium through which you were looking, because the farthest away that you can look at the land, the farthest away is going to be your 0 point. It's going to be the horizontal, because you're looking straight out ahead, right? But the earth is never to such a degree below your vision. Even though, like, say I'm 5'10", so I'm just under 2 meters, right? 2 meters, just do 2 meters. My eyes are a plane parallel to the ground. Parallel. I'm looking over ground, but my line of sight is still straight to the target. But what do I see? I see, lo and behold, that both the ground and my eyesight meet at the 0 point out there in the desert, out there in the wilderness of the ocean or the wilderness of the land. Does that make sense? Are you understanding what I'm saying? Like, I'm just putting this together right now. This is a pretty interesting concept for me. And this is nothing new. We've said this before, I've just not said it in this way. Right? So this is my answer to someone who says, well, what would it look like on a flat earth? All I would have to do is drop this bar down until it is parallel with my vision. There's the target, there's the 0 point, and it meets right here. The reason why I lose visibility is because of perspective and the conditions of the medium, focusing down into that one energetic spot. And if there's anything above it or anything below it, I can see that clearly. But there's a point at which I can't start to... You just can't see shit forever. But forever is in that distance. And that's what's even more esoterically amazing about our mythological stories. All right, so here it is. We only see this bit of the stripe and this bit of the stripe. So now when it's loomed up, right, you see how much more there is? So if I did an overlay of this, I think it would be pretty safe to say that I accurately, so then this is what, hold on. Oh, this is the thing. Okay, so then let me do one without the overlay. think can't remember if I saved the... All right, I'm going to jump off because if I keep talking to you, I'm not going to focus. So I am going to jump off because I've got inspiration right now. And that's what I need. I need some inspiration right now. So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. If you're here, Anders Ace, hey, good to see you, man. I haven't seen you in a while. Cleary is here. I'll just add him as moderator since I'm here. She was so clothes-minded. That's a good joke. Anders Ace, I haven't seen you in a while, bro. Well, guys, I hope something that I said was interesting. And all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, I am jumping out. Hey, Sue. Hi and bye. By the way, if you're right here right now, please make sure, if you haven't liked, please smash that Fonzarelli. And then since you've already commented, once the video is done, could you maybe jump over back to the comment section and just make a comment first, second, third, just for the algorithms. And then please also make sure that you share this content, right? I know that it's a bit of this is like a podcast, like you have to watch it almost. So I get it. It's not really shareable, but there were some nuggets in there. Like if I went back into this, that I said some things that I really liked, I could make some clips out of that. But then I'd have to spend time doing this again, and I'd rather start creating something else. All right, so this has been another exciting adventure of The Plain Truth. I've been I have been your host, Travel Mateus. Until next time. Boop, boop, beep, 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 boop, 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 beep, 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 boop. Where's the, there it is. And adios, amigos.